I kind of want to frame where we're going, kind of our vision for 2019, leading into 2020. Can you believe that? 2020, isn't that something weird, everybody? So there's a few trends we see. You've heard a lot of them tonight. So as an organization, positioning ourselves to be innovative and influencers to really youth organizations all across the nation. That's why we podcast. That's why we're writing books. We want to educate and teach others on how to do something different when it comes to reaching the next generation. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing the impacts of social media, for sure. We're recognizing that we need to play a bigger role digitally, and so does every organization. We're looking at the mental health, the increase in anxiety, the increase in suicides, depression, cutting, all that's on the rise with this generation, and it may stem from the digital era. And we're looking at this generation that is just wanting, that has so few mentors in their life, so few people able to step in and say, this is what I see in you. They're interested in their passions, what sets them apart. And so anything that we can do to help them explore that is an opportunity they're not getting anywhere else. And so we're looking at a focus on passions. We're looking also at the state of the church and honestly the continual decline of young people attending church. It's not getting better. It's even hitting the Bible Belt across America. The stronghold for traditional ministry is diminishing. Ministries all over are having trouble understanding what they can do to really connect and retain their influence with young people. And we're looking at, ultimately, the thing that's needed most are environments that offer stability and identity, purpose, and belonging. In other words, who they are, why they're here, where they belong, answering those questions in a consistent, healthy way, because so many teens don't have that at home. They're not attending church. School isn't a place for that. Where are they getting it from? Where is it coming from? And so we need to create something different. So with all that in mind, we want to head into 2019, 2020 with two things in mind, and that is focusing on breadth and depth. And here's what I mean by that. Since 2011, we started out, and our legal name is Catalyst Teen Center. Right? We changed it to Catalyst Collective because our idea of what a center would be had shifted. At first we thought, hey, we'll be a new cool version of the YMCA. But then we saw that teen centers all across America were not succeeding at all. And so we were saying, well, wait a minute, we got to scrap the idea of a teen center. What do we need to do? And so with years of research and traveling around the country, we have come up with a plan that guys, I've never been more confident in anything in my life than this. We have a plan to open up a hybrid center that would work as a co-work space during the day, coffee shop, and live music venue in the evening, where we're running free classes and we're connecting with young people, college students. We're bridging the gap generationally and tapping into the talents that exist in the 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds on up, and saying, together we can create an environment where we're all leading and influencing one another in identity, purpose, and belonging. And we believe we can do that. We have a model set and ready to go that can do it. We need a physical space. We need a place that someone can drop in 24/7 and we can connect. We can connect with them and we can help them take their passions and talents and give back to the community. And so there's more of this online, and I can talk to you guys in more detail, but we feel like 2019 is the year that we're going to take a significant step into bringing what has been a mobile organization into a physical location that people can come at any point in time and know that they are known, cared for, and that they're going to get direction, identity, purpose, and belonging. So we believe that in order to make that happen, that we need a strategic partner. And not necessarily a strategic partner that's going to, write a check for $1 million. We're talking about a strategic partner that might have a piece of property, that might have a warehouse, that might cut us a great deal. We've been exploring partnerships with potential churches. We don't know where this location is going to be, but we know in order to take that step forward, we're in Austin, Texas. We can't go out and go buy $1 million piece of property. We're going to need a strategic partner that's going to help us find a space that we can afford, that can do these things. And so that's what we are searching for, looking for, praying for, and you guys might be the connection to make that happen. The other thing when we talk about depth is we realize, and as you've seen with the After Hours program, we're reaching such a broad stroke of teens and individuals. And when we ask them to describe After Hours, one of the most common words they use to describe this program is home. Because, and you saw it in it was real quick in some of those videos, that some of the teens started talking about they'd rather be there than at home, that After Hours is a place to escape what's happening at home. We hear that every day. Every day. And so what we need to do in the schools, and what we're working on now, is to create depth. We have an idea for an innovative leadership program, a mentor program that's not like anything else out there. That we want to take we want to pilot 200 students through in 2019. We want to start them on a track. And we believe that we can do that, and there's a cost associated with that. We think that at first it'll cost about $150 per student. And if we take 200 students, we start them down this path. Ultimately, that's $30,000. We're going to try to raise $30,000 from now until the end of March. Right, and we're gonna bring this to light, and we're gonna take them deeper. And so you might play a part in making that happen in a lot of different ways. And so I want to invite you to consider how you might support us. On the tables, in the middle of the tables, there's a white envelope and white cards, and this is more than just financial support. This is you want to talk more. You heard something tonight where you're saying, I want to discuss this further. Let's sit down and have coffee. Or you already know what you want to do or get involved. I want to connect with you. We as an organization want to connect with you. And if you would, look at those white cards in the middle and maybe consider filling those out. If there's something that you want to donate tonight to help us get started and kick off this fundraiser that we're going to be doing. Some organizations can raise $30,000 in like a week. That would be a miracle if that happened for us. That would it would be a miracle. So that's why we're saying March. Because what you'll find when you look at the finances behind our organization, you'll be like, how do they do all that they do on that amount of money? Because we're like money wizards. We know how to do things on a dime. Remember, I started with a $500 a month operating budget. I promise you, we are the most efficiently run nonprofit in the state. You can look at the numbers and see, how do you do it on that much? Well, we want to do more. The problem is, I am the world's worst fundraiser. I don't do this very well, and honestly, I don't like doing it. But I know it needs to be done, and I need to get out there more and tell the story of Catalyst. And so that's what we're working on. That's what we're doing. I invite you to really consider how you might join us financially or with your talent, time, whatever it is. And even if you're a young adult in this room, $12.50 a month sponsors a student through this program for an entire year. Everybody can start at that level. I started my philanthropic giving, tithing, whatever you want to call it, when I was 21 years old. Right? I was writing checks. At that point, I was donating $100 a month, and I thought I was giving my whole life away, at that point. But now I come to realize that was nothing. That was nothing. I didn't even miss that money. And so my last thought, and kind of closing prayer, and I want to be as transparent and vulnerable as possible here, is that I'm not great at everything. There are things that I'm really good at, and there's a lot of things I'm not good at. And I, like any person, when I have an idea, I have a conviction, I also have fear. I have fear of failure. What if it doesn't work? What if I asked a whole bunch of people to support me and it didn't amount to what I thought it would? All right, we have that. We have an idea about something, that maybe God, or a conviction to do something, but then we think of all the ways it can go wrong, and we start to get afraid. And many of you probably know the story of D.L. Moody. But if we rewind the clock 150 years ago, here's an evangelical Christian who saw in his time a great need to be outside the walls of church and reach people who didn't know Jesus. And he had a heart for young people. The problem is that the church at his time didn't really have a heart for young people. And despite his best efforts, he found that the traditional attempts to try to bring education, spiritual discipleship weren't working. So you know what DL did? DL did something that was the beginning of children's and youth ministry. Nobody really knows the foundings of it. We just think of it as a separate organization from a church. Churches have always had children's and youth ministries. No, they haven't. This is a new invention. And D.L. Moody piloted it this way. He basically saw a need. He knew that kids at that time, in the late 1800s, were working in factories. Right? There was no teenager back then. The teenager is a concept that's 100 years old at best. Right? Kids went from being children to men and women around the age of 13. They weren't teens. It wasn't adolescence. Right? And these kids were working in harsh factory conditions, 6-7 days a week, but they did have Sundays off. And he found that because they were working so hard, they weren't going to school, they weren't educated, they couldn't read and write, how are they going to better their lives in the future? He said, you know what these kids need? They need to learn how to read and write. And I'm going to teach them how to read and write through using the Bible. And the church at the time wouldn't give D.L. Moody space to do this. And so D.L. Moody said, fine, I don't need your space. He went and he rented out abandoned bars. And he opened up these bars, these saloons, and he brought kids in on Sunday, teens, and he started teaching them how to read and write. That is your foundation of Sunday school. Meeting one of the most practical needs in our society in a time and a way that was extremely unpopular. And here we are again, 150 years later, a totally different concept of what children's and youth ministry is, but a need that is going desperately unmet. And we need innovation in this space more than we ever have before. And so when I look at this, I think, man, I have fear of taking this forward. But you know what? I had fear in 2008 when I left the corporate world and moved into full-time ministry. I didn't know. I had a conviction. I had faith that I knew I should be doing this. And so my wife and I, we sold our home. We had 3 small kids at the time. We bought a small mobile home, in Jonestown, cut our cost of living in half and said, let's do this. We knew we needed to work with teens, but the church at the time couldn't even afford to hire us, so we decided to raise our own money and support. And that's when we found out that we absolutely were terrible at fundraising. And God miraculously provided for a year until we were able to get a salary there. But I had to face that fear and say, I don't know what's going to happen and the repercussions this is going to have on my family, but we got to do it. In 2008, we did it. And then about 3 years later, in 2011, as I described to you, I came across that wall of fear one more time. If I go to my pastor and say, I'm done in youth ministry, he could fire me like that and say, well, then I'll find somebody else, but your idea is not a direction I want to go in. So thank you, I'll find somebody else. But he didn't do that. And so I faced my fears, and I went to him, and I told him what I was really feeling and the idea I had, and he embraced it. And we started on a different trajectory. And then another 3 years later, at that same church, this idea, this ministry, this catalyst was forming and it was growing, and we were recognizing that, you know what, teens and parents weren't even wanting to come as much because we were in a church building. We recognized we needed to be outside the church building. We needed to be a true separate organization that wasn't directly tied to the church in order to reach who we wanted to reach. But in order to do that, that was giving up our comfortable salary and all the benefits and perks of having a building, and we became a mobile organization, and I didn't know if the organization was going to last 6 months outside the church. But fear, that wall of fear, I hit it. But my faith and my conviction pushed me through. Right? And then here I am 3 years later, coming into 2019, right, 3 or 4 years later, and I'm hitting another wall of fear. If I step out and risk our own personal finances to setting up a center, a physical space. It's a decision our whole family is wrestling with right now. We could potentially lose everything, right? And here I am, and here we are praying about this, saying, what are we going to do? We know we need a strategic partner to confirm taking that next step, and we want to take it because we realize that this is the tipping point for what we want to do. And we believe that we're going to get there. And so, despite our fears, and you have fears too, you have ideas, you have convictions, maybe your fear is giving, maybe your fear is getting involved, maybe your fear has nothing to do with catalysts, but you have a conviction about something that you want to do, and you've hit that wall like I've hit that wall. And really, what choice do we have? We only have one shot in this life to live on this earth. And we might as well take some risks. Take some big risks. Because I gotta tell you what, I am not gonna be, 90 years old, looking back at my life saying, man, I wish it would have taken less risk. I would have looked at all the things I was afraid to do and said, I wish I would have just gone ahead and done them. I have to capture that. I have to capture the fact that I know why we're even here breathing on this earth, and I have to push through fear. And I want to invite you as a group to come support us as we do that. So, as I close in prayer, I want to just say thank you again for being here. Thank you for staying a little bit late. Thank you for blessing me personally and my family so much, and the people that labor to make this happen. You are the people that labor to make this happen. Before you leave, the white cards, if you're filling those out, you want to connect with us, get involved in some way, you can take those and you can put them in there's a little highlighted arrow right back there on that table. You can put them in a little bowl. But I also we have our new book out there, workbook with our digital course, brochures on some of the things that we've done and talk about and do as an organization. Take those. Take a book with you. Take the brochures with you. Seriously, don't worry about donating $15. We're okay. Take that because you're going to read it and do something with it, right? Learn about us, connect with us, talk to us. Let's do this together. Let's innovate something that hasn't been done in our country before. Let's take it to the next level. Father, I thank you tonight for everybody that is here and everybody that we have been able to bless and speak to through Catalyst. We thank you, Lord, for everybody that we will be able to speak to and bless in the future. We thank you for these strategic partnerships, these principles, these schools. We thank you for everything that you have lined up for us to take steps forward, to take these crazy ideas we have and bring them to life. And we just want to celebrate what you've done this year. It's not been easy. Especially not been easy, with the weight of the issues that this generation is facing. But we're asking for the strength to continue to move forward. And we can do that, Lord, if you bring us more individuals. You align our hearts with others that want to work together to do this. Because we need their help and we need your help. So we thank you for tonight. May what we hear here, maybe what we've heard, God, may it have a ripple effect. So, love you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for staying late. Please take some food if there is any left in reserves. And, if you want